Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something totally bizarre and incredibly fascinating. We're going to do a bit of a digital anthropological deep dive into two highly unusual, recently discovered documents. Now, at first glance, you might think these are just simple notes jotted down on some lined digital paper. But as we start to unpack them, they reveal this strange, deeply constrained, hidden world. We're going to decode these artifacts together and uncover the really intense stakes of this anonymous writer's daily life. So let's jump right in.
I want you to really just sit with this quote for a second. Remember our previous mistakes. Example, truth or dare incident, AO4 incident, walking home incident, etc. I mean, wow. It immediately opens up this giant mystery box, right? Who is this anonymous writer? And more importantly, what kind of unbelievably intense stakes are they living under? When a routine walking home is classified as a literal incident, right up there with a truth or dare incident and whatever the AO4 incident was, you know for sure you're dealing with someone operating under strict surveillance and high risk.
And this perfectly sets the stage for what we're analyzing today. We're looking at two totally distinct sets of these bizarre, self-imposed rules. On one hand, we've got a meticulously detailed list of digital logistics and school preparations, and on the other, a completely different set of directives focused entirely on physical evasion and hiding contraband. When you decode these two texts side by side, they reveal the absolute suffocating constraints of the writer's daily life and the literally unbelievable lengths they go to just to maintain a tiny sliver of control.
All right, Act 1, managing the digital space. Let's get into it.
Let's focus our attention on that first document. What's absolutely wild here is the writer's insanely complex digital file management system. It is literally a masterclass in clandestine operations happening right under someone's nose. The very first rule details the use of an 8.1 partition. And to be clear, this isn't just a hidden folder on a desktop, it's a heavily guarded digital fortress. The writer explicitly points out that when they get back from holidays, they have to log into the main PC and physically remove the drive letter from the secondary partition. They are actively hiding hard drives on a shared computer, treating their data management with the seriousness of a classified intelligence briefing. And it's fascinating to see how this builds, step by methodical step. First, they remove the drive letters so the partition is completely invisible to anyone casually using the computer. Second, current files go straight onto a USB. Third, they transfer those files over to the hidden Windows 8.1 partition. And fourth, jumping down to rule number 5 in the text, they unpack what they call ASTORY videos from the main phone onto a USB drive for viewing, and then transfer unallocated space onto that 8.1 partition. The author is literally hoarding unallocated hard drive space just to securely store these mystery videos. It's a digital shell game of epic proportions.
But the constraints don't stop at the keyboard. They spill right over into their academic life. Look at these strict school protocols. They have to remember the names from the note on the wall. And notice the specific tactical strategy here. We should probably do one full name, and for the longer names, we try our best to remember them. They also have to punch in an ID number to fill in C and prep a summary document for September. The writer notes this prep takes a whole month, triggering this agonizing countdown until, as they put it ends on June 26th. They are trapped in this highly regimented, stressful timeline, micromanaging their own memory just to survive the school year.
So, the real takeaway here is that our writers out there fighting tooth and nail for absolute scraps of autonomy. And that brings us to rule number 4, which honestly has my favorite phrasing in this whole thing. They mentioned that for the FR Foundation, they need to take the receipts from bottle machines AO2 and AO3 to the checkout for, and I quote, that 90 cents of glory. 90 cents of glory! They also talk about using a Coinstar machine in Tesco Choice so they aren't just passing coins everywhere. It's fascinating. The writer leverages these machines for incredibly minimal, yet absolutely vital financial gain. In their highly constrained economy, every single penny is a hard-fought victory.
Moving right along to Act 2, the physical and social economy.
We pivot pretty sharply here from digital files and school prep over to the second document. Notice how the constraints totally shift gears. We're no longer talking about unallocated hard drive space, we are talking about physical, real-world evasion. This brings us to the central objective of the second text, which is titled simply Vape Hoard. This document lays out a highly coordinated system for salvaging and hiding discarded vapes. Rule 2 explicitly lays down the law. When Dada and Mama finish using their vapes, do not destroy them. Instead, the writer is running this clandestine salvage operation, picking up after Dada and Mama to slowly build up this secret stash.
Now, what's super interesting is how the writer views their physical geography.
They've essentially mapped out their entire environment based entirely on security. Safe spots for the Horde, places like the corner of FM Greatness or the bushes in FM Workshop. But then there is the danger zone, Bishop's Growth. Rule 3 gives this ominous, frustratingly vague warning. Make sure it isn't in Bishop's Grove, as we've learned from what happens if you leave stuff there. Once again, you see the writer being haunted by past incidents, adapting their strategy based on these severe, unseen consequences.
To prevent another Bishop's Grove-style disaster, the writer engineered what they call the 2-200 rule. Basically, you cannot leave the Horde in one spot. You put 2 down, and then you absolutely must put the next 2 200 meters or more away. Let's just appreciate the military-grade paranoia of this protocol for a second. They are geographically dispersing the Vape Horde to ensure that a single compromise, like say a single discovery by Data and Mama, doesn't lead to the total loss of the entire stash.
But of course, hiding things requires accomplices, right? And that brings us to the writer's incredibly strict social economy. Rule 5 lays it down perfectly. You only execute this operation with someone who has a trust level over 80%. It's brilliant how the writer views their peers as literal statistical liabilities. So those above 80% trust, like Mason and Omid, they're totally clear for the operation. Meanwhile, sitting below 80%, we've got William and Owen. And you honestly just have to ask yourself, what on earth did William and Owen do to fall below that 80% threshold? Were they part of the Truth or Dare incident? The AO4 incident? Sadly, we'll probably never know.
The second document wraps up on Rule 7 with a final, absolutely vital protocol: wash your hands. The reasoning here is pure survival mode. First, they note that nicotine can be smelled very easily. Second, you will be eating with your hands after. The paranoia here is just palpable. They've already ensured in Rule 6 that nobody except invited people are watching, but the biological evidence, that lingering smell on their hands right before a meal, presumably at the table with Dada and Mama, is the very last constraint they have to meticulously manage.
Which brings us to Act 3, the writer's hidden constraints.
By synthesizing these 2 totally different documents, the digital file rules and the physical Vape Horde directives, we can actually build a pretty complete, empathetic psychological profile of our anonymous author. Think about it. They are governed heavily by authority figures, Data and Mama, who cast a massive shadow over their daily actions. They're forced to operate strictly within shared spaces, a shared main PC, shared bushes, shared dining tables. And as a direct result, they've become highly methodical and deeply paranoid, constantly learning from past incidents. Ultimately, they are motivated by marginal gains, chasing that 90 cents of glory and protecting their hidden hordes at all costs. Both texts reveal a protagonist who is fighting back against intense daily restrictions by utilizing this extreme, self-imposed organization. It really is a fascinating look at human ingenuity under pressure. We all face constraints, right? Whether it's from family, school, or just our environment. This writer just happened to document their survival strategy in incredible, painstaking detail. Which leaves us with a final thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. Take a look at your own daily routines. What bizarre, secret rules have you engineered to survive the constraints of your own life? What are the anthropological artifacts that you're leaving behind? Thank you so much for joining me on The Explainer today, and as always, keep learning.